Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tijuana Clifton, and I am the Business Marketing Communications Manager for the South Carolina MBDA Business Center, which is operated by DISA Incorporated. DISA was founded by Diane Sumter 37 years ago with a primary goal of increasing opportunities, building capacity, and accelerating business growth for small businesses. And now I want to welcome you to session 2 of our 4-part virtual training series on succession planning. Session 1 is now showing in YouTube in case you missed it or you want to review it. And I think we just put that in the chat. So please, if you haven't seen it, take a moment to click so that you can view session 1. So before we go any further, please let me take a moment to thank our sponsors for their support. Our sponsors are the U.S. Department of Commerce, Minority Business Development Agency, the City of Columbia, the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council, DISA Inc., and iSuccess Consulting. If you attended the previous session 2 weeks ago, I don't have to tell you that our facilitator for today is not only knowledgeable on the subject, but also dynamic and energetic as well. T. Renee Smith is CEO of iSuccess Consulting. She is a second-generation business owner and also the author of 2 books, The CEO Life, a holistic blueprint to scale your business, and DEI is a lifestyle. She has helped raise over $350 million in capital for diverse businesses and assisted them in obtaining opportunities with corporate giants like Delta Airlines. In addition, she is a mother and a wife, and training, coaching, and one-on-one assistance are just a few of the services her firm provides. So ladies and gentlemen, our facilitator for today, Ms. T. Renee Smith. T. Renee?
Hello, everybody. How are we feeling today? So we are about to get started, and I'm going to introduce our amazing panel. But before we do, I need to check and make sure that everybody is wide awake. So I want to do a check-in to see how we are feeling before the session gets started, so the panelists and I will know how hard we have to work today. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I need you to let me know where your fun level is, and I want you to drop it in the chat. Are you at a level 10 where you're like, I am excited, I am ready to hear what you all have to say today? Are you at a 5, like, oh my gosh, is it just now Tuesday? Do we still have, 4 more days to go? Or are you at a 1? I barely made it on and I still have on my pajamas. All right, let me know where you are. All right, a 9.99. Okay, that means you almost at a 10, Dale. We have 11s, we have 10s with the shades on. So the lowest that we have is a 7. Keisha, you said 8 only because you're hungry. Now you really gonna make us work and you hungry? All right, and then we have 8s and 10s. Okay, so good. Oh, Taria, a 3. Nathaniel, you're hungry too. Okay, so if it's below a 5, that means that we have to give a lot of energy to you all because we want everybody to be over an 8 before they leave, okay? So today we're going to be talking about business valuation. And so we're going to talk about all the nuts and bolts about what business valuations are, but we're also going to talk about some of the intangibles that people never discuss when you're thinking about how to transition or exit your business. So by the end of this session today, if you stick with us, you are going to have several aha moments, how you can increase your peace, your productivity, and your profitability. If you want to learn how to increase your peace, your productivity, and your profitability, drop in the chat, let's go. All right, so I need to see the chat with let's go. Do we want to learn how to increase our peace, our productivity, and our profitability? Okay, I see 2. Where's everybody else? Are y'all awake? Let's go, let's do it, all 3. All right, so let us introduce our amazing panelists to you today. One of the great things about these sessions is that you're really gonna be able to hear the good, the bad, the ugly about being a business owner, about doing business succession planning. So first, I want to introduce the amazing, incomparable Diane Rushing. She is the CEO of AOS Specialty Contractors. Diane is the CEO of AOS Specialty Contractors, a general construction firm operating out of Lexington, South Carolina. She is a graduate of Southern Technical University in Marietta, Georgia, with a degree in mechanical engineering technology. So she is heavy and smart. After college, she went to work at Westinghouse Naval Nuclear Division in Pittsburgh and was part of the engineering team responsible for refueling Trident-class submarines with the Navy Nuclear Division for a couple of years. So desiring more field involvement, Diane went to work with her father at a small construction company he owned called Advanced Outdoor Services. And Diane, we can't wait to hear the story. In 1988, she purchased the business. So see, nothing was given for free. She purchased the business, and it has grown under her leadership from its humble beginnings to a large company providing all types of hardscape and concrete work, including streetscapes, walking trails, stonework, electrical, and more. In 2002, AOS was incorporated and the name was changed as the business had evolved to provide more specialized services. So under Diane's direction for over 30 years, AOS has become a recognized niche contractor, fielding over 40 employees and growing every year. Diane is active in her local community as well as and holds various leadership and construction related organizations. Diane, you want to just tell the people hello, and everybody, let's give a virtual round of applause. Next, we have Nathaniel Spell Sr., CEO and founder of Construction Dynamics. Nathaniel began a career in construction after graduating from Clemson University in 1972 with a Bachelor of Science degree in building construction. After years of working with some of the nation's leading construction companies across the United States, Mr. Sparrows pursued his dream of entrepreneurship by establishing Construction Dynamics, Inc. in 1987. While working from his garage, see, humble beginnings, CDI has grown to become one of the Southeast's leading minority-owned and operated general contracting and construction management firms. He is passionate about the role that business ownership plays in the empowerment of people and devotes tremendous time in encouraging African Americans to become entrepreneurs. Spell cites the profound impact faith has had in his principles in business and his supporting his community. Nathaniel, let's give everybody a wave and hello. Everybody, let's welcome Nathaniel. Last but definitely not least, we have Mr. Barry Steele. So Barry began his career with the South Carolina Department of Transportation, where he held leadership positions in construction, maintenance, project development, and environmental. This varied experience developed his understanding of the power of connecting the dots. And we know as a business owner, that is what we do. We connect the dots, and how each phase of a project's development is affected by decisions made throughout the life cycle of a project. In 2006, he left the public sector to feed his entrepreneurial side. The knowledge that he had gained from his first job transferred to the private sector. Alongside some fantastic colleagues, he built RPM Engineers, which is a fast-growing engineering company that specialized in bridge design, roadway design, and construction engineering and inspections. In 2011, RPM merged with Med and Hunt, and he learned the power of combining his talent between two firms with a similar culture and taking care of people and doing what's right. Today, he is humbled to be serving as board secretary on Mead and Hunt's board of directors while mentoring their transportation staff in the Southeast as a business unit leader. He finds joy in using his career and life experiences to help talented young staff reach their potential and achieve their goals. Let's welcome Barry. All right, so before we kick off our session, I always like to have our facilitators to share their path or their road to small business entrepreneurship and really talk about what it was like so for you, Diane, to take over the family business, what that process was like, some of the challenges that you came into. So just kind of talk to us about what your path was. You're on mute, Diane, and I know you're saying something really good too.
My dad had bought the business or had sold the business to someone else. and it wasn't doing very well. And so I took it over from her, or bought it from her. And I had very little business experience, but it was an active business, so I could just kind of sit down and the phone would ring. I'm an introvert, kind of a quiet person. And so I kind of went off into the bid world, because then I could just, I didn't have to worry about the good old boys club. If you were low bid, you could get the job. And so that's kind of been our path. I love what I do. I call us a heavy duty decorator. We take out the road from storefront to storefront and put in new water, sewer, landscaping, irrigation, pavements. We do a lot of parks and monuments. It's beautiful work. It's just been a joy to do it. And transitioning, as you know, I'm going to be 65 this year. So this is a great topic that we're talking about today. I'm happy to share how I'm transitioning AOS over.
So 2 questions for you. What was your biggest challenge in coming into the business, not having the experience? What was the biggest challenge for you in learning the business and growing the business at the same time?
You know, the biggest challenge was, and I wish I would have gotten involved in business groups earlier, but I was so busy working that I didn't take time to learn business. And in my later years, I belonged to the Women Presidents Organization and Vistage and several others. And I am so sad I did not do that much earlier, because the knowledge that came from those groups was tremendous. And I just wish I would have done it earlier.
So it sounds like you experience the same thing that a lot of us experience as business owners, where you're working in the business versus working on the business, the strategy. Did you struggle with that?
I certainly did. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And it wasn't until I joined those groups that I realized how little I knew. And people ask me all the time, as a woman in a male dominated field, do I experience, any discrimination? And I say, I don't notice it. That's what I've done my whole life. So I don't know if I do or don't, because I don't pay attention to it. I just plow through it.
You just keep your head down and you keep working. So I have one more question for you, but I want to get everybody involved in the conversation. Drop in the chat. Are you working in your business, which means that you're servicing clients, you're putting out fires, you're getting what needs to be done? Or are you working on your business where you're thinking about strategy, how you're going to grow, making sure that you have customers in the pipeline? Or are you doing both? So drop in the chat and let me know. Are you working in your business? Are you working on your business, or are you doing both? Diana says both, and it's overwhelming. A little bit of both. I'm doing both. Nathaniel, strategy. Okay, so you're working on the business. Caroline says, I am finally getting to the point of working primarily on my business, but it's taken 10 years to get here, both. So for everyone that is working on your business, I'm working in my business, building while bidding on contracts. On the business, husband works in the business. Okay, so for all of you, tell me what has been the biggest struggle for you in working and learning how to work on the business. What has been your biggest struggle? And then Diane, while they're typing that, if you can tell us at the young age of 65, what type of business succession planning are you doing for your organization, and how are you looking to transition your business?
So it was through my Vistage group that they helped me find. I hired a president not too long ago, and as the business, as we grew over 50 people, and I kind of have a startup mentality. I really needed somebody that had more to take us to a medium-sized business, that type of mentality, and the processes and procedures and things that we were a little lacking in. And the first person I hired was somebody that had it was the most moral person I'd ever met in my life, but he didn't have a clue how to run a business. And so it was really sad that, our friendship has survived that, but I didn't even know how to pick a president. And so my Vistage group helped me find, and the president that we have chosen here, he is amazing. And And he loves our people like I love our people. And it just is a wonderful fit. And he has so much wonderful business experience that I don't have, that is just great for where the company is right now.
So do you see yourself retiring from the business, leaving it to family, selling the business? How do you see the succession planning?
I think we will do probably some internal sales.
Okay.
And as we allow some other people to buy in. And I am working on for the first time in my life, I get to work on some ancillary projects that are not day in, day out. I'm working on some alternative building materials and things like that. So I don't have near the stress on me, and I just love it. And I'm still involved, and I'm still here, and I get to manage that, but also do some creative things that I've always wanted to do my whole life.
I love it. Good for you. Good for you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank
All
you.
right, Nathaniel, I'm going to come to you for you to talk about your journey, but let's just see what they're saying in the chat. So the question was, what has been the most difficult challenge for you in working on your business? And so we have working for a family member's business. Okay, Dee, tell us more about that. What has been challenging? Has it been challenging maintaining the personal relationship with the business? Hiring a team has been a challenge. We're going to really get into that today and get feedback from our panels on what to do to hire the right team members. And then if you have the wrong team members, what do you do to transition them to another position or out of the company? Finding people to delegate to. Regina, I think we probably have a lot of type A personalities on here where it's very difficult to delegate. Or Nathaniel, we would like for you to share your story in a minute about when you do delegate and maybe that they are not performing as you like them to. Keisha says, getting my husband to understand he has to work on the business as well, right? Keisha, you need the partnership, both working on the business. Good old boy system, corruption when bidding. Diane, have you experienced any corruption when bidding?
Oh, yeah.
And how do you handle it? And Nathaniel and Barrett, we want you to answer the same questions too. How do you handle it? You just keep.
We just don't play in that field. I always like to say I like to sleep in my bed at night. And so we just don't.
You don't participate.
We don't participate. Sometimes somebody will throw out a line, hey, how about if we do this? And we just say, no, thank you.
Okay. Nathaniel and Barry, have you guys experienced corruption in bidding? And if so, how do you handle it?
Well, from our perspective, integrity means everything to us. And as Diane said, we don't play in that arena either. As a minority-owned firm, when we competitively bid, we seek bids from subs and suppliers and what have you. And there have been occasions where some firms have bid us, but they were higher. They bid us higher than they were bidding other folks, with the objective that their friends would get the work and what have you, and they would share quotes that they received from other suppliers and subcontractors. We don't do that. We don't share the quotes that we get. They're very confidential and what have you. So yeah, there are games that are played, but we don't participate.
You don't participate. Thank you. And I'm coming back to you about your story. Barry, what about you? Have you guys experienced that?
Well, I think it ties into kind of, we pretty much, the clients pick you, but you also pick the clients. There's definitely some situations where, things that in our, early game of trying to find out if we're going to pursue a project that maybe they weren't exactly they're maybe too political, or two things that we don't really do well in. We just like doing work. So I think a lot of that has to do with and I kind of like to stay in my 3 feet, so things I can control. So we like to pick our clients.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So other challenges working on the business, finding someone who can take care of the project work the way that you want it done, ha ha ha, and then letting go. This is a personal problem, control, ego. No, Caroline, is not probably a personal problem. One of the things that we're going to get into in a little bit is about the processes. And so what a lot of people, the issues that they have when they're delegating is that they don't have the proper processes and procedures in place to be able to train team members entrepreneurs on. So we may want it done the way that we do it, and it's in our head and it's how we do it. But when you document the processes and their step-by-step procedures, it's easier for you to be able to train people on. Trusting employees to grow, trying to get it up and running and trying to find the right place for the business. Your boyfriend's helping you now. Shifting your mindset from employee to business owner. And I think Diane kind of talked about that a little bit, and balancing life with a husband and a small child, and building capital to hire small staff. Rushian, that's a lot going on. And that's what most of us entrepreneurs deal with. Competitive bidding, how to bid the right price. Putting those prices in place so they're easy. Okay, so Nathaniel, can you talk to us a little bit about your journey and your personal experience on the path to entrepreneurship and small business ownership?
Okay, after I graduated from Clemson many, many moons ago, I had a chance to work for a number of companies. Started my career with the General Electric Company in their plastics division. And I spent about 10 years with them. I left them to come back to the Southeast from upper state New York and Indiana to work with an industrial construction company in North Carolina. And my goal was always to own my business one day. Every place I went, I was the first African American to be employed by the company or and what have you. So I worked extremely hard. I was the first one on the job, the last one to leave many times, because I wanted to see how good companies operated. And also, being the first African American, I knew if I did well, it would open up doors for others as well. When I started my company, I was working for another firm in Columbia, and again, I started working it from my garage with very little capital, about $4,000 to be exact, but I didn't have any bills at all, and I had estimated if I didn't get into construction work, how many houses would I have to pressure wash? I used to do pressure washes on the side, but nevertheless, over time I ended up teaming up with some larger firms to pursue construction management projects, school projects, which allowed us to scale up and what have you. And then from a general construction standpoint, I asked myself, where do minorities spend their commercial dollars? And that was in the church sector, the religious sector. So we decided to focus a part of our marketing effort in church-related projects, what have you. So we pursue projects as a prime contractor in the neighborhood of 20-25 million dollars, and then we have several partner relationships with much larger firms to go after projects that exceed that.
So we had a question in the chat where they were having difficulty in pricing their bids. How did you develop what your pricing strategy was going to be?
Okay, as a general contractor, we self-perform very little work. It's mostly managing subcontracts and suppliers. So what we do in preparing our estimates, we solicit bids, competitive bids from subs and suppliers, and then we have general conditions, which consist of the personnel that we need to work as a superintendent on site management personnel, as well as project managers. We have in-house estimators and accountings and what have you. So to answer your question, we get bids, competitive bids in from reputable firms. Okay, we don't award work to anybody. We want to make sure the firms that we deal with can stand behind their work, provide warranties for their work, and they have an excellent track record. Okay, so we get those bids in, and then we add again our general conditions to that, and then put a certain percentage in for overhead and profit. And that's how we arrive at our final estimate.
Thank you. Thank you. And guys, as we're going through, just drop in the chat any questions that you have. Barry, can you talk to us a little bit about your path to small business ownership?
Yeah, as we kind of said in my bio, I started out working with DOT in the public sector for 15 years. And one of the things I was fortunate enough to do was oversee a $1.1 billion program for road and construction in Horry County. And they actually came up, it went really, really well. And then it came back up again, another sales tax for about $500 million. And me and a friend of mine just kind of got the entrepreneurial spirit. So I'm like, well, why don't we go see if we can do that on the private side? Of course, we didn't know anything about business. Of course, we didn't have a clue about, we didn't have an engineer, we had no engineering group. We had two guys that could talk a pretty good game. That was about it. So what we did is we left and we got into business with RPM engineers. Much like Nate, we started out of a garage in the town of Lexington. And we were able to successfully basically go to work and go after that sales tax and win a lot of projects, and very proud of what we did. We went from 12 people to, when we merged or sold to Mead and Hunt, we were 84 people at that time, and really, built to, we were at one point, we're averaging 100% a year as far as growth, and in a down economy. So I'm very proud of that. It was really a great situation of people coming together in a common alignment of making sure that we work with our clients. We basically did repeat work and we did quality work, and it worked well. One of the things I did find out in that small business side is that, cash is king. That's one thing I didn't understand. So, you can actually have too much work. And that's one thing that we started looking for, somebody that had a little bit of a bank behind them. And we found Mead and Hunt. They basically, we were acquired by them in January 2011. And what I found out there is commonality is a great thing. Culture is a great thing. That's really what drives a good acquisition. And I'm happy to say that here I am, 12 years later, and I'm sitting on our board, very much integral and part of our growth. When I came in, we had 300 people, 380, I think. Now we're at 1,250. So I've been very fortunate to be part of a growth situation. I know that's not a small business, but it still has a lot of those small business headaches that are out there. So a lot of it is, one of the things I found is you just got to believe in yourself. If you think you got a good product, which we thought we had a good product at that time when we kind of left the public side and went to the private side, you just got to believe in yourself, and you got to also understand you're going to fail. And but if you know what's the right thing is, and if you believe in yourself, you'll have more triumphs than failures. So just always keep trying.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. One of the keys that we all know is that persistence is an attribute that any small business owner or entrepreneur has to have, because you're going to get knocked down and you have to just keep going and keep moving. All right, guys. So we're getting ready to launch a poll. And so I have a couple of questions that we want to ask you. Okay. So the first poll question is, do you understand what a business evaluation is used for and why it is important? So yes or no, we're launching the poll. Do we understand what a business evaluation is? Yes or no? Because we throw the term around all the time, business evaluation. And so we want to know if you understand it. All right, we can close the poll. Let's see what we have. All right, so half and half, right? Half understand what it is, half do not. So for those of you that understand it, I want you to drop in the chat what you think a business evaluation is. Let's drop in the chat. Okay, let me see what you think it is. All right, let's launch the next question, please. Next poll question. Have you had a business evaluation performed on your business? Yes or no? Have you had a business evaluation performed on your business? Yes, no, or maybe I'm not sure. Which one? Yes, no, or maybe I'm not sure. All right, let's close the poll. All right. So most people have not had it. And then when you have a few that said maybe. And so in the poll, Andrea, thank you. So a business evaluation is a full review of your business to see where improvements, changes can be made. Andrea, that's a great answer. Thank you. All right. So let's launch our final poll question. And this just helps us to see who is in the room. Question number 3. What is your business transition or exit strategy? Is it A, you're going to leave the business to your child or your children or another family member? The second one, you're going to allow employees to buy the business. Third, you're going to sell the business. Or fourth, you will live forever. You will be amazed at how many entrepreneurs we talk to, and most of them are like, I am not retiring, right? I'm just going to go to sleep and then I just will not wake up, but I am not retiring, okay? So which category are you, A, B, C, or D? All right, let's close the poll and let's see what we have. All right, so a few of you are going to live forever, right? A few of you all will live forever, but most people will leave the business to your child, children, or another family member. And then the second is you will sell the business. Okay, great. All right, next slide, please. So Diane, we understand that yours is going to be probably internally allowing employees to buy. Nathaniel and Barry, talk to us about what your business succession plan is.
Yeah, in my instance, I like to leave it with family members.
Okay. Are they currently working in the business?
Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And do you have a plan to transition them in and transition you out?
It's a work in progress right now. I don't have all the details denoted, but we're working on it.
Okay. Can you share with us? I know when we were doing our preliminary check, you had talked about how you had brought somebody in the business and then you had to make some changes with that. Can you kind of walk us through that experience and what you learned?
Yeah. Yes. In August of 2019, after having been in business for about 35 years, I decided to step back from the daily duties and I left 2 young men in my company who'd been with the company for over 2 decades to see how they would manage and run things in my absence. I had been wrestling with exactly, what to do with the succession and what have you. So these 2 individuals had done a good job with project management and so forth. So I felt confident that I could leave them in place and then pull back. I've been working since I was in the elementary school and I'm now 73. So I wanted to get some enjoyment out of life and what have you. So I pulled back and that decision turned out not to be the best decision in the world. And it became detrimental to the overall success of my company. And we took, there were some financial setbacks which occurred. So it forced me to get re-engaged in the project, in the company rather. And we are in a rebuilding mode. I got rid of some folks who were not working as a team members, who were not following company procedures that I put in place. The mistake I made was I failed to inspect what I expected and whatnot. I pulled away too much and did not check on the cost at complete reports that we use to manage our projects, and I didn't even check the money in the bank account and stay on top of that and what have you. The individuals that I left in charge, when they ran into problems, they did not consult me at all. Okay, instead of coming to me and let me know what the problems were so I could help solve them, they kept me in the dark and what have you. So one of the other lessons I learned is trusting people. Integrity is very important. And I emphasize that to our folks all the time. I say, do not lie to me, okay? Be honest, be candid in whatever you do, and what have you. So I'm back engaged now, trying to get the company back on the right track, trying to recover some of the losses that we have that we incurred. There were several projects that we undertook, some that we should never have engaged in because of the high risk involved with them and whatnot. And in some cases, we didn't make a dime on, which is the first time that's ever happened in the company's history and what have you. So it was a lesson learned the hard way for me.
So it sounds, so you've gotten some kudos in the chat. So wow, that is good advice when you fail to inspect what you expected. So is it more along the lines of having delegation with accountability? So making sure you have the right processes, procedures, reports in place so you can delegate it, but then having the accountability, which is the inspection part?
Yeah, yes, and it's a matter of also following procedures.
Yeah.
I tell all of my staff that it's my job to make sure you understand what your job is and what's expected. So I have written procedures in place. Now you can have procedures in place, but it's another for them to follow them. Okay, and that's what happened in our case. I left these folks in charge, but they did it their way. They deviated from the procedure. I always tell my folks what we do is not rocket science. Okay, I've been in this industry for 50 years, and the principles of running a construction company has not changed. Technology has allowed us to work more efficiently and minimize mistakes along the way, but the basics, the fundamentals are still the same. Okay.
So what do you do now to ensure that your procedures and your processes are followed?
Okay, as I said, I'm back engaged. We're meeting weekly.
So weekly meetings.
Yeah, weekly meetings. I'm involved again with the estimating department, and we have procedures in place in terms of if we are pursuing a particular project. There are certain questions that you ask yourself. One, do we have the personnel with the capacity, the experience to undertake the project? Have we worked with that particular client before? How risky is the project? Where is it located? What's the cost estimate of the project? And if the answer to a lot of those is no, then it's the wrong job for us. It's the wrong fit.
So question for the group, drop in the chat and let me know how many of you all have weekly meetings with your teams. How many of you all have weekly meetings with your teams? And Nathaniel, when you're in your weekly meetings, what are you discussing with your team?
Okay, well, I have a printed agenda, and we go around the table and talk about the particular projects that we have. Okay, we want to know what's the status of the project. Are we on schedule, or where are we on the budget? We have what we call a cost at complete report that we generate. It's the project manager responsibility to update that report every monthly, and it gives me a lot of information. It shows you what the budget is. If you had any change orders with the owner, it shows what the cost to date is, what the commitments are. Commitments are purchase orders and subcontracts that we have written or not written will show up in the commitment column, and then the project manager has to determine line by line what he or she predicts the final cost will be for that particular line item. Okay, and in doing so, it tells me how we are doing in terms of our profit projections on the project.
Awesome. And so Diane, do you have weekly meetings with your team? And I know Barry, you're kind of far, removed, but when you were managing the team, do you have weekly meetings? And some people in the chat are great. Y'all are having your weekly meetings. You're discussing project status, last week issues, current week projects. You have meetings with different team members and interviews. Intervals, some of you all discussing employee issues, absentee, and I see quite a few of you saying, I'm just a solopreneur, I'm just solo, it's just me and my boyfriend. Even if it's just you or you and one other person, you still need to have your weekly meetings because you want to go over what are the goals that we're working on, what do we need to do to get to accomplish these goals, are we on task, the projects that we're working on. You could even discuss what do we need to continue doing, what do we need to start doing, what do we need to stop doing, but it really is a strategy meeting to make sure that you are focused on the goals that you're working on. And it's kind of like an accountability meeting, because if you're just working in the business and you're just getting things done, you don't have accountability. Are you achieving the goals that you want to achieve? So even if it's just you need to have a set cadence of meeting, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly. Even if you're a solopreneur, you're going to be meeting with yourself. Okay. All right, Diane and then Barry.
Yeah, we have weekly leadership meetings, and then it cascades down. The estimating has their weekly meeting, and project management has their weekly meeting, and so, and all of those have agendas that are followed and reported back. And at those meetings, we talk about cascading messages and how we're going to share with the whole company things that are going on, and just it really bonds our leadership team together well.
Awesome. Thank you, Barry.
No, yeah, it's very important. We do monthly design meetings with all our disciplines involved. So really everybody kind of understands where the project is, and if there's some issues that come up that, everybody's there that can basically lend a hand to help. But I think it's very important to do it. I do it a weekly, no more than every 2 weeks, because really if something blows up, you want to blow it up early. You don't want to sit there and have it come back at you 2 months later, and then you have to fix it. And it's very important too. I think the other component that's important about it is just education. We're going through a company-wide program management plan education, where we kind of took for granted that people really knew, the finances of the business, knew how to manage tasks, how to keep people on schedule and those type things. And we kind of found we took that for granted. So we had to go back and do a lot of education, because you can't keep people, you can't hold somebody accountable if you don't teach them what they're supposed to do and give them the tools to do that. So that's one thing we found to be beneficial is really an education program and protocols.
That is so good. You cannot hold people accountable, right, for what you have not trained them. That's really good. So quick question to the panel, Diane, Nathaniel, and Barry. What is the panel's consensus on outsourcing estimating? And this is coming from Regina. How do you feel about outsourcing estimating? What kind of experience have you had with it?
When I do seminars for small minority businesses, I tell them that estimating is critically important. Okay, if your estimate is wrong, you could be out of business tomorrow. Okay, and so it's imperative that you be able to estimate yourself. Now, I have no problem with outsourcing check estimates, getting estimates from outside source to compare with yours, but it's imperative that you be able to estimate the job yourself and what it costs. Okay, because the other thing is when you outsource it, that person does not have any skin in the game. If they screw it up, it's you that have to answer for it, not them, and what have you. So I firmly believe you have to do your own estimate. We have a full-time estimate. We have 2 full-time estimators here in our office.
So Nathan, when you were just doing the estimating, how did you learn? Did you just teach yourself? Did you take a course? What did you do to build that capacity?
Yeah. As I said, my degree was in building construction from Clemson University in the School of Architecture, which they taught you to be a general contractor. So with that particular background and getting the experience for years and years working as a contractor. I learned that way based on what projects cost. Whenever you bid a job, I always tell our folks we should learn from that. Okay, if we don't get the bid, what was the difference between our bid and the lowest bidder? Who was the competition, and so forth. So to answer your question, I learned from experience, okay, from working on projects and getting prices from subcontractors and suppliers to see what they charge for their work.
Okay. So in addition to, like Nathaniel was talking about, when you're going for bids, and if you don't get a bid, then requesting a debrief where you're talking to the contractor officer and asking them about your pricing, right? So that's another way as well. And then we have, Nate, this is for you. Are GCs allowed to provide the information Nate just stated?
Okay, I don't
Uh,
quite
I think
understand.
she said that's okay. She got her answer. That's what she
Oh,
needed. Keisha, did that answer your question? And Diane and Barry, what is your thought on estimating, outsourcing it?
We don't outsource estimating, and estimating is kind of how you get familiar with the job, and just one line item or one part of a bid from two different customers can mean two different things. So you have to get in the mind of your customer and understand what they expect. I've even had a DOT bid to get one time where there was a line item and there were different counties that were bidding it, and I could see in the paperwork that one county had counted the removal and replacement in the sidewalk price, and the other county had the removal separate. And, so you really have to read through and understand. And if you outsource that, you could be in trouble.
So same thing, I guess, as Nathan. You just have to get in it, and you just have to go through the process to
But
learn how
getting
to do it
someone
and get better.
to do quantities and things like that, to do the easy work and kind of check behind that, that's great help.
But you have to learn, because it is your business, it is your revenue. You have to be able to learn how to do it.
You better understand that bid.
Okay. Barry, what do you think?
I don't think I can add any of that. I think Diana and Nate basically were exactly right. I mean, obviously it's up to, what your resources are, but ultimately you're responsible for that bid. And you've got to make sure you're knowledgeable to approve it. So I think what they said is exactly what I would say.
Okay, perfect, perfect. All right, guys. So what is business valuation? So we broke it down into 4 things. Number 1 is business valuation is the process of determining the economic value of a business, giving owners an objective estimate of the value of their company. So oftentimes a lot of people think that it's just big businesses that need to have business evaluations, but really you want to know where the state of your business is in. So in a business evaluation, you analyze aspects of the business, including the company's management, the capital structure, your future earnings, and the market value in its assets. The third thing is typically a business evaluation happens when an owner is looking to sell all or part of the business, merging with another company, kind of as Barry talked about when they were doing the acquisition, or even if there's a divorce or if there's a specific life change or business change for the owner. Other times people do a business evaluation is if they need debt or equity to expand the business, if they're looking to bring on investors, if they're looking to sell shares, if you need a more thorough tax analysis, or if you plan to add shareholders. So those are some of the key areas as to when a business valuation is done. All right, next question. Next slide, please. I said next question, next slide. Okay, so there are three different approaches to a business evaluation. And somebody asked in the chat earlier, who does the business evaluation? And most times you want to hire a company where they specialize in business evaluation. So a lot of business owners will do or perform a business evaluation themselves, but it may not be accurate, right? And so you really want to hire a company or a professional that does business valuation. Okay. And so these are three approaches to doing a business valuation or evaluating the business. So an asset-based approach is where you total up all the investments that you have in the company to determine the value of the business. So you basically would list all of the assets that you have and you would subtract all of your liabilities. And really what you're doing is to, if you were to liquidate the value of the business, how much money would be available for the company. So that's an asset-based approach. Second type of approach is an earnings value approach. And that's where you're evaluating a business based on their ability to produce wealth in the future. So this is generally done for a company that is looking to buy or merge with another company. And there are two different approaches. One is where you can capitalize your past earnings. So you can look at the earnings in the past, or you can look at the future earnings and what's that's called discounted earnings. So those are two. And then the third approach is a market value approach. And that's basically where the owner is establishing what the business is worth based on a similar businesses that have recently sold in the market. So let's just say that you have a technology consulting company that does search engine optimization. I'm just using it for example. And you have a similar business of size, and they sold for $10 million. Okay. However, other businesses sold for $5 million. So you're really just kind of looking at what are the business selling for in the market and then establishing a price. But the most common approaches are the asset-based approach and the earnings value approach. Next slide. So we're going to talk about today 3 P's to strengthen your business evaluation. And we actually have been talking about these as Diane, Nathaniel, and Barry have been sharing. 3 critical things are your people, your processes, and then your profits, how you manage your money. And everything that they've been talking about, they fall into one of these 3 categories. Next slide. So the first one that we're going to talk about is your people. And so Diane, Nathaniel, and Barry, for each one of you, I'm going to ask you a question about how do you make sure that you have the right people in the right positions? And then when you figure out that you don't have the right people in the right positions, what do you do? Next slide. So how many of you all have read the book Good to Great? How many of y'all have read it? Panelists, I'm sure that you guys have read the book. Participants, how many of you have read Good to Great? Drop in the chat, yes or no. Have you read Good to Great? Perfect. So all of you all that have read Good to Great, are you implementing what Good to Great, what they talk about? Because a lot of us will read the book, but we don't implement it. So if you've read the book Good to Great, are you implementing what it says? Okay. Okay. So Good to Great, it's a leadership book, and a lot of corporations use it. A lot of larger businesses use it. But even if you're a smaller business, you want to take the concepts because you want to grow into a bigger business. I always say that a big business pretty much started off as a small business. Okay. So I see a lot of people saying that you are trying to implement it, but it's hard. That's right, Diana. Have the right people on the right bus. So for the ones that are looking to implement Good to Great, tell me the problems that you're having in implementing it. And the whole concept is that you want to make sure that you have the right people on the bus. You want to make sure that you get the wrong people off the bus. And then you want to make sure that the right people are in the right seats. And what that simply means is, oftentimes in our company, because we have not clearly identified roles and positions and the skill sets that we need for that position, we will either have the wrong person, right, in the wrong position, or we might have the right person in the wrong position. So you have to figure out, are the people that you have in the positions the one that has the skill sets? And so when Diane was talking about, she said she had a person that had great integrity, great morals, right? But they didn't have the skill set for that specific position. So then what Diane would have to do and say, this person has great morals, they have great character. what is their skill set and can I put them in another position and then get the right person that I need in the position. So Diane, Nathaniel, and Barry, I want you to talk to us about how you implemented this concept of the right people in the right seats and the challenges that you've had in doing that.
As I mentioned earlier, because of some of the setbacks we had, we are in a rebuilding mode. And I got rid of some folks in the company who, one, were not working as team members. The thing I emphasize is we all have a job to do. It's my job to make sure you understand what that job requirements are and what the expectations are. And then we don't have anybody here doing someone else's job. We want to make sure everybody's carrying out their working as a team, helping each other so that we work. I want a philosophy that we work hard, but we also play hard. And so as we're bringing people on, we are scrutinizing them, doing a lot more due diligence than we've done in the past in terms of where they have worked, how long they have worked. Many times, if you look at resumes, you see folks that have worked 1 year here, 1 year there. They're constantly moving around from one job to the next, and that's a red flag for me. We normally don't hire people that have that particular track record. So the experience that they've had, why did they leave various companies? What I always ask, what's your goals, short term, long term, and what have you. We want to make sure who we hire going forward is a good fit for our company. They have the right culture. They bring the culture that we're looking for, and so forth.
Awesome. Diane, Barry, do you guys have anything to add?
I could say that some of the people that I have exited, I have really enjoyed watching them flourish in another company where where they meshed better with that culture. And so it benefits everyone if it's not the right fit to exit them and do it gracefully and kindly and love them out the door.
I love that. Love them right on out the door. Barry, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it looks like I got some more reading I need to put on the list, but I haven't had the pleasure of reading this, but I just kind of go through those things and Nate basically hit on the head is that, as far as the right people on the bus, you got to make sure you got a cultural fit from the start. We kind of, when we hire people, we look for meeting hunters, as we call it, very egoless people, very team oriented, very much wanting to learn different things and be part of have something, very one company centered. So you got to make sure you hire the right person. And the wrong people off the bus is one thing, and that's about making sure you get touch points so that you're involved with people as they go through their career journeys. And if they're not doing well, you're making sure you let them know that, and you're documenting those things so that if there is an exit that needs to happen, it's not something that basically is a shock to them the day that you come to tell them, well, I need you to leave. And then just in the right people in the right seats. I mean, one of the things it comes with, I'm sure, even small firms. We were a small firm at RPM, but we had diversity. Is just having that diversity and having people just maybe kind of shift around and put them in different spots and just see how they do. We've had people that start in our transportation that end in our aviation sector, and they just love it. But it gets back to we started out with that right cultural fit. So then you just want to find that place for them in the organization.
So I want to ask a question for my solopreneurs, where they may say, you guys are larger companies, so that's really not important to me. Can you all just chime in and say why it's important for you to develop the culture of the organization where you a team of 1, 5, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000? Why is it important?
I think, you're not going to be a solo proprietor forever. I mean, if you're wanting to grow, there's nothing wrong with being that solo proprietor if that's what you want to do. But if you want to grow, you're going to be, I came in as 12 when we started, and in 4 years we were 86. So it's basically, and now I came in and, with the bigger firm with 300, and now we're 1,200. So if you do the right thing, you're going to grow. So you really need to have that culture fit, because that's really what's going to attract people and retain people. So you need to figure out how, when I make culture, how are you going to treat people? Are you going to allow them to grow with you? How are they going to have investment in the company? How are you going to empower them to do certain things? So, that's all into your culture.
Awesome. Nathaniel, were you going to say something?
No, well, one of my weaknesses over the years sometimes has been learning how to treat treat people, if you will. Okay, I tend to be a strong taskmaster and whatnot.
No way.
So, so I've learned how to, at least I'm still learning. My son tells me I'm still learning how to work more effectively with people. Because when we hire folks, I always say you're part of the CDI family, and I really mean that. And we've had people who have gone on, as Diane said, we'd like to see them succeed. They come through CDI, and we don't want to hold anybody back. Being a smaller company, sometimes we can't afford the salaries that they're able to get with larger companies. But what I tell them when they come to CDI, if you want to learn construction, you're at the right place, because you get a chance to work in all facets of it. Some of these large companies sometimes will pigeonhole you. They'll put you in estimating. You might spend your entire career there. So I don't know if I answered your question. I may have deviated. But,
It's okay. It was great information. You did.
okay.
Diane, you have anything you want to add?
No, I think they said it well.
Okay, so Regina says, do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And then we have Diana who says, establishing a culture makes it easier when you get to interview. The people you hire must be a fit. And then the culture of the company must be discussed with newbies. Absolutely. Next slide. And I think what happens is oftentimes that we don't realize how important culture is. And so we're going to get into culture actually in the next slide, but one important thing is making sure that you have an accountability chart, and it's a step further than an organization chart, and it goes alongside with the having the people in the right seats. First of all, you have to understand what are the seats that you need. All right, Melissa, yes, you use the EO system. Awesome. So how many of you guys have read the Traction book? And so Traction, they basically have what they call as an EOS system, and it's from the concept of just as computers have operating systems, that businesses should have an operation systems. Now, it does take a while to implement it into your system if you do. And it talks about the type of meetings that you need to have on a regular basis. It talks about clearly defining the roles that you have and what people should be doing. And we just did it where you could see working on the business and working in the business. And if you're a smaller company, your name is going to be probably in all of these roles initially. Okay. But what you want to do is you want to outline and say, in order for this company to grow, to be successful, who am I going to need in a strategy role, which is those are the people that are going to focus on the business, right? So those are more of the leader, the visionaries. And so your organizational chart, it clearly defines who reports to whom, right? But it does not define the roles and who is responsible for the roles. Okay, so when you combine the organizational chart and the accountability chart, it clearly defines the roles of the organization and who is responsible for those roles. So you start off with your people section, and that's defining the roles. What are the outcomes of these roles, and what are they going to be held accountable to? Does that make sense? And so then now when you're able to do this, then you find out the processes and procedures that you need to have in place in order to support these roles. So I've attended a lot of classes where they have taught traction. And one of the biggest things that I hear from a lot of the smaller businesses is this is not for my company. These are for larger companies, right? But as a small business or a solopreneur, if you just take the concepts and then implement them in where your business is now, you're establishing a foundation or a framework to grow the business. Does that make sense? So the name of the book is Traction, and it's by Gino Wickman. All right, next slide. So let's see. It bothers me when large company partners think that it is okay to pirate or cherry pick our best employees. And you know what's funny? I mean, not what's funny. What's sad is that that happens a lot of times, and that's why the culture is important. Because if you are looking for, if you're building a culture that is more like family, if you're building a culture that works on personal development and growth, so you have to decide what is that culture, right? And then now you have to be able to invite people in that will fit within that culture. So if you have somebody that is looking to, excuse me, just advance, and they're looking for more bonuses and they're looking to get raises all the time, then that probably is not going to be a person for you, because a larger company can come away and cherry pick that person. However, if you're establishing a culture where you have flexibility, they're able to work from home when needed, they're able to grow. So if you're creating that type of culture and then a larger firm comes to pick them away, if they're wanting to work with a smaller firm and learn the business, kind of like Nathaniel was saying, they're not going to be so apt to go to that company. So you have to build your culture, and then when you're interviewing people, you have to make sure that they are going to be a fit for the culture. But Luis, it happens all the time. It happens all the time. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about why it's important to establish a culture? Should ask questions about 5-year plan, listen for the response. Regina, you're absolutely right. And so that's a question when you're looking to see if a person is a good fit for your culture. Where is it that you see yourself in 5 years? Okay. And then that answer is going to tell you. And so they're like, I want to be the VP of this, that, or I want to be, managing this. And that's not what you have in your organization. You already know that this is just a pit stop for them. Okay. Also, most good future employees actually ask about the culture of your company. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the 5 levels of leadership. So when you're looking at people, you're looking at number one, the people that you're bringing onto your company, and then you're making sure that you understand the roles of the people, but then you also have to look at yourself as a leader. And so I heard several people say that they have to switch from a mindset of an employee to an owner. You also have to switch from a mindset of a solopreneur to a CEO, because they're different. And a solopreneur, you're doing the work, right? Nothing moves, nothing happens unless you do it. If the company's not making, if you're not working, the company's not making money. So a solopreneur and a shift to a CEO of now I have to place myself in a strategic mindset. I have to place myself in a role of developing people. I have to place myself in that mindset, in that role. I have to think about not just the finances for today, but the finances 5 years, 7 years from now. So as you grow as a leader, right, you should be growing into that level of CEO. So somebody says you manage processes and you lead people. Absolutely. Is that Wladimir? You manage processes and you lead people. But one of the problems is sometimes is that we don't have any processes to manage. And so then we end up managing people and then managing buyers, right? So we have to make sure that we have processes in place to manage, which puts us in a position to be able to lead people. So have any of you all read John C. Maxwell's 5 Levels of Leadership? Anybody read those? If so, drop that in the chat. And I know that we're busy, so doing an audio book and listening to the audio book is another great way to get the information. And so what he does is he breaks down like 5 levels of leadership. And so you really take an assessment to see what level of leader that you're in. So at the bottom level, it talks about people follow you because they have to. right? So that's when you're kind of managing a position. Then the next level is people follow you because they want to, right? So that's a whole different level of leadership where somebody's following you because they have to and then they want to. The third level is of leadership is production. And that's where people follow you because of what you have done for the organization, right? So with Nathaniel, Barry, Diane, they've seen you build the organization, right? They've seen you and they respect the work that you've done. The next level up is people follow you because of what you have done for them, right? Creating that culture, pouring into them, investing into them. And then that pinnacle level is respect. And that's where we all want to be as CEOs, where people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. Your integrity, you're a visionary, you operate on mission, the values that you have, you're very strategic, you're building certain relationships. They follow you because of what you represent. So if you look at these 5 levels of leaderships, I want you to drop down and tell me which level are you on. Are you a position? Like, is that your level of leadership? Are you permission? Are you production? Are you people development? Or are you pinnacle? Drop in the chat and let me know where are you currently. And the reason why it's always good for us to do a true assessment is because if you want to get to the pinnacle leadership level, you figure out where the gaps are. All right, so we have Keisha, people development, great, great, great. So Keisha, what do you need to do to go from people development into pinnacle? And then we have production, Gabriella, Nikita, Regina. What do you need to do to go from production to people development? Okay. And let's see. Yes, processes need to be developed and taught appropriately to the people. Then a company will be aligned. And then we have in my 38 years in business. All right, Louise, I have found that people don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite quotes. People do not care about how much you know until they know how much you care. I believe we have all of the levels. All right. So guys, if you are at a production level, drop in the chat and let me know what you need to go to the people level. So these are all tools for us to learn, to grow, to be able to develop on for people, how we get the right people in the right place, how we develop our accountability chart right on top of our organizational chart, and then what is it that we need to do to advance our levels of leadership. Okay, next slide. So now we're going to get into processes, which is the meat and next slide, which is the meat and potatoes. This is not the sexy part, right? When you have to sit down, write down the processes, identify where the gaps are and redo the processes. Okay. So Dondra said in order for her to move from a production level, she needs to be more engaged one-on-one with team members. So Dondra, what does that look like? Does that look like bi-weekly meetings, monthly meetings, developing an individual development plan? What does that look like? Bill said he needs to transition to developing people versus the bottom line. Okay, Bill, what does that look like for you to develop your people? Regina says, start my hiring and putting people into the process. So Regina, do you have your roles out already outlined of what the people are that you need and what they need to be doing? I need to work hard and get to put more so I can move to permission, being at the forefront more, developing plans and their input. Okay, and find out your people need and find and get it to them. Okay, so you all let's see that I'm asking you questions because a lot of times when you come to webinars, you'll just get the information, you'll soak it, but you'll leave, you'll get back into your business and you won't do anything or you won't make any changes. So I like to get your mind moving of what simple action steps do you need to take. So when you leave the training, you can actually go in to implement those things. Okay. So these are the core business processes that every business needs to have. Now, of course, for your specialized business, you will need additional processes. This is just the umbrella. So your product service development, you have to look at, are the products and services now servicing the clients that I need? Do we need to have innovation? One of the comments said that as they were going through their scaling process, a lot of their skills were obsolete. Okay, so you got to make sure that you're being innovative. Innovative. This next one is the marketing. How do your clients know about your business? Even if you're working with a government, are you looking at the projections for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Are you introducing yourself to the contracting officers? If you're working with corporations, how are you getting the eyes of the buyers? What are you doing to market yourself? It should be an absolute process that you have so that it could be repetitive. Are you going to trade shows? Are you doing speaking engagements at industry events? What is your marketing process? Same things with the sales. What is your sales process? Do you have a sales funnel that gets clients or potential clients in, prospects in, follows throughs with them, does the sales proposals? What is your whole sales cycle? And is it documented in a process? And do you have specific people assigned to the task? Even if it's just you initially or you and a few people, everybody should have the processes documented and you should know who is going to be involved in that role. Your technology and infrastructure, are you all using the same software? Do you have an enterprise solution? Is everybody able to connect? Are you managing your projects in a project management tool, or are you just sending emails, right? How are your finances and accounting? Are they in QuickBooks? Are they in another enterprise-wide solution? Are you managing it via spreadsheets? Your human resources and your leadership management. We talked about how are we hiring people? How are we onboarding people? How are we exiting people? So it should be a full process that we have. And then the governance, who is overseeing you? Is it a board of directors? Is it a board of advisors? Who is overseeing and giving you input and mentoring you? Okay, so these are just some of the business processes that you want to do. Okay, next slide, please. And Bill, you said changing your seats, moving from operations to ownership, focusing on growing people, bottom line will follow. Okay. So, Bill, next question for you. What is it that you need to implement that you can start doing today to move from operations to ownership? What do you need to do? And then we have Walidi, I can't see your whole name. Core business processes needs to fulfill mission, vision, and objectives. Okay, got it. All right, so these are the benefits of the processes. Number one, it's easier to communicate what the strategy is. Our business, we want to grow by 20%, and this is our process. These are our marketing and sales processes, and these are our financial processes to make sure that we have revenue goals, that we're hitting the goals. So when you have specific processes in place, it's easier for you to be able to communicate the strategy. Or we want to acquire 3 new government contracts every quarter. So this is the process that we're going to do. We're going to submit 20 RFPs. We're going to, do debriefs for each RFP that we don't get. We're going to sub for 5 contracts. So you just have whatever the process is. Tasks are executed in a repeatable manner or repeatable manner. I just made up that word, repeatable manner, which means that you're able to identify gaps, you're able to identify holes. So if something is not working right, then you're able to go back and to figure out where is the gap in the process. Then your outcomes are consistent. It helps you to mitigate risk. It's quicker to see bottlenecks. It's easier to improve efficiency, and there's a framework for continuous improvement. And so it's very important that you have standardized processes in your business, because your business should be able to operate without you. If your business is not able to operate without you, then what you really have is a job, right? What you really have is you own a job. Because if you have to be there for the business to work, then you're not managing the business. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have processes in place. And even if you're looking to ever sell the business or transition the business down, 2 of the most important things are having the right people in place and then making sure that the people have the right processes to follow. Does that make sense? Is this helping you all? Drop in the chat. Is this helping you all? Or are y'all just making us work hard to be working hard? All right, next slide, please. And Louise, you said, I've grown my business on past performance. My pitch has been past performance is the best predictor of future performance. I love that, Louise. I love that. All right, so here's just an example of a process for human resources because we talked about how much how important people are. And so what happens is you need to have your own process for your employee life cycle, right? So what is it that you do to hire people? What is it that you do to make sure that you track your employees and you pay them? What is your process for developing? What's your process for assessing the development? How do you reward your team? And when it's tired to retire or transition them, what you need to do. Okay. So for everybody that is going to have any employees, you need to understand what your employee life cycle is and what happens in each one of these stages. And the foundation of all of this is making sure that you're clear on what the mission of your organization is, what you value, right? And those values should lead into your culture. So all of this lays on top of value, mission, and what your so your values, your mission, and your values or your principles. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so this is just an example of a process. So when we're talking about processes, we need to know what needs to happen at every step. So how many of you all have a human resources process in place? Drop in the chat. Let me know if you have a human resources process in place. And we're sending the slides, the presentation out, so you'll be able to go back and reference this information. Okay, next slide, please. All right, currently in development. All right, and so here's just an example of a sales process, right? And so we just combine the sales funnel stages with what your actual pipeline strategy is, okay? So if you go on the left side, these are steps within a typical sales funnel. And it doesn't matter what kind of business you have, a B2B business, business to government, business to education, business to consumer, whatever kind of business you have, you want to have a sales funnel. Because what happens is a lot of us probably have money in our phone, money in our Rolodex. We just get so busy that we don't follow up. We're not asking for referrals. We're not going back to past clients asking for business. So you want to create an automated process that does this where you don't have to think about it. So you set it up one time, you set your sales funnel up one time, and then you just go and you just manage it. Okay. So the first phase is awareness. And so that's where you're prospecting. So for instance, we do a lot of work with the government for DEI work and supplier development. So what our team does is we'll create a prospecting list or a future forecast list of what projects are coming down the pipe 3 years from now. And so what we do is our team, we reach out, we send capability statements, we introduce ourselves, and we get to know them, and we tell them that we want to be on their list when the RFP comes out. And so we add them to our weekly newsletter where we're offering them value, and then we'll follow up with them once a quarter, right? So in that prospecting, right, awareness, then we go into discovery. Okay, is this a potential fit? Is this a potential bid for me? Then we'll schedule up with an initial meeting with them. Evaluation phase, the intent phase, close the deal, deliver the product, and follow through with them. So your particular steps will be different based on your business, but you want to have a formalized sales process. How many of you all have a formalized sales process? Can you drop in the chat and let me know? And this is just a sample or idea. You develop it however you want to. Okay, next step. Next slide. I'm sorry. I said next step, next slide. All right. So poll question, we're going to launch a poll. Which one of these processes do you feel you need to strengthen most? Is it human resource and leadership management, marketing and sales, accounting and finance, your product service development, making sure that your products and services are innovative, operations infrastructure, standard operation procedures, governance, or heck, just all of them? Which one do you think, which one of these is the most important that you need to work on? All right, we'll leave it open for one more second. All right, let's close the poll. All right, so for most of you all, it's marketing and sales, followed by leadership and human resources. Okay, perfect. Next slide. All right, do you have the right processes in place where your business can successfully operate without you. So if we were to just pluck you out of the business today and your employees and your leaders were left by themselves, they could not contact you, would your business be able to successfully operate with you? Yes, no, or I don't take time off, so I'm not sure. All right, which one of these? All right, let's close the poll and let's see. All right, so as we see, most of us, it would not be able to operate without us. Okay, so drop in the chat and let me know what needs to be developed. Like, what is it that you need to develop? So Diana says most of us have a job. Okay, so we're building the business on the side. Okay, so what is it that you need to do in order to be able to have the business run on its own? And so I got it, Diana, for those that are working the business and a job. Okay, so next slide, please. We're going to talk about profits, which is our last session. And so we need to hire a staff and we need to build infrastructure. Okay. All right, next slide, please. So when you're talking about doing profits, this is one of the things that drives the business evaluation, and they're looking at several different things. And one thing that I want to say, especially since we have a lot of solopreneurs, is that you want to make sure that you keep clean records and you separate the business and the personal finances. Even companies that are larger companies sometimes still have issues with commingling funds. So you just want to make sure now that you're separating your business and your personal finances, and you're focusing on cash flows, making sure that your clients are paying you on time based on the term. You want to make sure that you're doing projections where you really understand the financial state. You want to make sure that you're doing your taxes, that they're current. And then as you're growing, that you're doing tax strategy and that you're doing tax planning. So the business part of, or the profit side of it is very important, because you want to make sure that you are leveraging yourself financially. And I remember Barry talked about it, about having access to cash, because cash is king. So if you see in your business that you're going to need to put cash into the business, are you set up for getting a line of credit, getting investors? How are you going to fund the business and its growth? Okay, next slide. And so Rashawn says, I have great processes in place. I need to get finances in place to hire employees. And Diana said, no, what I meant is that since our business does not operate without us, we have to, oh, got it, Diana, got it. You're right, you're right, you're right. But after today's session, we are going to put the processes in place, okay? So the 3 Ps that we talked about today, strengthening your business evaluation, is people, processes, and profits. All of them are extremely important. The business has to have the people and the processes to get the profits that you want. So the money is in your business. It is right there in your business. You just have to put the right people in place, the right processes in place to get the profits. Okay, next slide. All right, so guys, we have talked all the way up to 2 minutes before. So do you have any questions that you want to ask? And Diane, Nathaniel, and Barry, do you have anything that you want to add? Any last minute advice? That's the question that I'm gonna ask for you. What is the advice that you would give to all of our business owners here today to grow their business? What's that one piece of advice that you wish you would have known before you started the business?
I would tell them to run their business like they were going to sell it. So keep their books and everything for years and years, like professional, just like you were selling.
Great advice. All right, Nathaniel, Barry.
Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Did you say same thing, Barry?
No, I was saying I'll wait for Nathaniel.
Oh, I thought you said same thing. Okay, go ahead, Nathaniel.
Yeah, I just tell businesses, strive for excellence. I always tell folks, don't chase the dollars. If you strive for excellence, the dollars will chase you.
Ooh, don't chase the dollars. Go chase excellence. Somebody needs to put that on Twitter. Somebody needs to tweet that. Thank you, Barry.
Don't be scared to plan a strategy, and not next year or tomorrow or whatever, 2 or 3 years out where you want to be, 5 years out where you want to be. And no, you're going to fail, but basically if you have a good strategy, it'll work out.
I love it. So have a strategy and be flexible and nimble to adjust that strategy. Okay, final slide. So Diana, Canva, this is not an odd question. Canva is what we use to develop all of our slides, but actually this is a PowerPoint slide, but they have a similar template in Canva, so you can get that, Diana, okay? Bill said he wished he had known about the ESO tracking system. So one thing I wanted to tell you all is this is just session number 2. We have 2 more amazing sessions, and a couple of you all asked about legal questions in the chat. That is going to be session 3, where we're talking about the nuts and bolts of the legal and the accounting issues. So make sure you come back. All right, Tijuana.
Thank you so much, T. Renee. And I want to thank all of you for attending today's session, and an extra special thanks to our panelists, Diane Rushing, Nathaniel Spells Sr., and Barry Still, who were more than generous sharing their experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, strategies that brought them success, and pitfalls to avoid. Of course, we want to thank our wonderful facilitator, T. Renee Smith, for guiding us through the process of business valuation. If you enjoyed this event, please share it with others, and make sure you join us, as T. Renee mentioned, on July 13th for our next session, which will be the nuts and bolts of legal and accounting issues. So again, we thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you the next time.
Bye-bye. Have a great one,
Bye,
guys.
y'all.
Great job.
Good
T.
job,
Renee.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
guests.
y'all.
Y'all were amazing panelists. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.